September 16th, 1992. The Treasury, London. Norman Lamont is 49 years old. He is Britain's Chancellor of the Exchequer, and he is losing. Outside his window, the pound is being destroyed in real time. George Soros' quantum fund has been selling sterling since dawn, tens of billions of pounds, more than the Bank of England has in reserves to defend it. The selling is mechanical, relentless, mathematically inevitable. Lamont has raised interest rates twice today, first to 10%, then to 12%. He has announced a third increase to 15% that never actually takes effect because everyone in the room understands it is already over. At 7:30 in the evening, he walks outside to face the cameras. He announces that Britain is suspending its membership of the European exchange rate mechanism. The pound will no longer be defended at its current rate. It falls 15% in hours. $3-4 billion in reserves burned in a single afternoon. Gone. Not lost slowly through bad policy. Gone in one session, in one trade, by one fund that understood the arithmetic better than the institution trying to defend it. That afternoon is called Black Wednesday. Lamont calls it White Wednesday years later, because leaving the ERM eventually helped Britain's economy recover. But the deeper story is not about recovery, it is about what produced the crisis in the first place. And that mechanism is running inside the British economy again, right now. Stay with me. To understand what actually happened on Black Wednesday, not the surface version, but the mechanism underneath it, you need to understand what the ERM was and why Britain joined it at the wrong moment. The exchange rate mechanism was Europe's precursor to the euro. Member countries fixed their currencies within a narrow band against each other. The anchor was the Deutsche Mark, Germany's monetary credibility, Germany's interest rates. Britain joined the ERM in October 1990 at a rate of 2.95 Deutschmarks to the pound. The rate was wrong from the start. Sterling was overvalued. Britain's inflation was higher than Germany's. Its productivity growth was lower. Its current account deficit was widening. The math said the rate was unsustainable. But joining at that rate was a political commitment, a signal that Britain was serious about European monetary integration. The rate was chosen to impress, not to reflect reality. This created a specific trap. To stay in the ERM at 2.95, Britain had to match German interest rates. Germany was running high rates because of reunification spending, the massive fiscal cost of absorbing East Germany. Those rates were right for Germany. They were catastrophic for Britain, which was already in recession. High rates to defend the pound, a pound too strong to be defended, honestly, a current account deficit that kept widening, an economy that needed lower rates, but could not have them without abandoning the peg. Soros saw the trap before anyone in the Treasury admitted it. He built his position across the summer of 1992. By September, he had assembled a short position of $10 billion against sterling. He understood something simple. The Bank of England could spend reserves to buy pounds, but it could not spend reserves it did not have, and the reserves were finite. The trap was the mechanism. Black Wednesday was just the day it closed. Now here is the United Kingdom in 2025, and the trap has been rebuilt, not with the same architecture, with the same logic. Britain's current account deficit stands at approximately 3.5 to 4% of GDP. It has been running a persistent deficit for over 2 decades. The economy imports more than it exports. The gap is financed by capital inflows, foreign investment, foreign purchases of UK assets, foreign holdings of gilts. This is structurally identical to the pre-1992 position. Not the exchange rate mechanism, the dependency. Britain's financial stability rests on the continuous willingness of foreign capital to finance a gap that the domestic economy cannot close through its own production. In 2022, that dependency was tested violently. Liz Truss's mini-budget announced $45 billion in unfunded tax cuts. The gilt market, Britain's government bond market, collapsed in days. Yields spiked to levels not seen in decades. The pound fell to its lowest level against the dollar since 1985. The Bank of England was forced to intervene to prevent pension fund failures. Truss lasted 44 days as Prime Minister. That episode was not a policy mistake that has been corrected. It was a demonstration of a structural vulnerability that has not been corrected. The UK's debt-to-GDP ratio has risen from roughly 35% in 2007 to approximately 100% today. Annual debt interest payments are approaching $100 billion. The fiscal space to respond to the next shock, through spending, through stimulus, through anything, has been dramatically compressed. Now, here's the critical part. In 1992, Britain's trap was visible to anyone watching the ERM arithmetic. The pound was overvalued. The reserves were finite. The rates required to defend it were destroying the economy. Soros saw it. He traded it. In 2025, Britain's trap is visible to anyone watching the gilt market arithmetic. The debt is real. The deficit is structural. The capital inflows that finance it are not guaranteed. The next time a government presents a budget that the market judges unsustainable, The 2022 mechanism runs again, faster, with less room to absorb it. The Bank of England is not Soros' counterpart in 2025. The gilt market is. Here's what Black Wednesday actually cost, and why the modern equivalent costs more. The direct cost of Black Wednesday was $3.4 billion in reserves, one afternoon. That number is often cited as proof that currency defense is expensive. It is also misleadingly small. The real cost was institutional. Britain's government had staked its economic credibility on maintaining the ERM parity. When it failed, the credibility went with the parity. The Conservative Party, which had made ERM membership a cornerstone of its economic identity, never recovered electorally from that afternoon. Labour won the 1997 election with a majority of 179 seats. The institutional credibility cost of the 2022 mini-budget is comparable. Markets concluded, in the space of 4 days, that British fiscal commitments could not be trusted at face value. The pound's response was structural, not cyclical. It fell because the market updated its assessment of what Britain's fiscal framework was actually worth. That update does not reset easily. It persists in gilt yields that carry a premium above what Britain's fundamentals alone would justify. It persists in the pound trading below the levels its pre-Brexit trading relationships would suggest. It persists in the form of a market memory, the knowledge that Britain's fiscal commitments have been tested and found wanting, that makes every future fiscal announcement slightly more expensive to credibly communicate. This is the Black Wednesday legacy updated for 2025, not a single afternoon of reserve burning. A continuous discount on British credibility that compounds every time fiscal space narrows further. Here is the dimension that makes the 2025 position structurally harder than 1992. In 1992, leaving the ERM was the solution. It was painful, it was humiliating, but it was available. Britain could devalue, could cut rates, could let the pound find its own level. The adjustment mechanism existed and worked. In 2025, the equivalent adjustment mechanism is far more limited. Britain cannot simply devalue its way to competitiveness. A weaker pound raises import prices immediately. Britain imports a significant share of its food and energy. A 15% currency depreciation, the kind Black Wednesday produced, would add directly and rapidly to inflation. The Bank of England would face pressure to raise rates to contain the inflation. Higher rates would increase debt servicing costs on $2.6 trillion in outstanding gilts. The circle is tighter than it was in 1992. The ERM exit was a clean break. The 2025 equivalent, a sustained loss of gilt market confidence, has no clean break available. It would require fiscal adjustment of a kind that Britain's political system has shown, repeatedly, it cannot deliver cleanly or quickly. This is what makes the 2025 mechanism more dangerous than the 1992 one, not the size of the specific trigger, the absence of the exit that made 1992 survivable. Here is why this matters far beyond Britain. The pound is the fourth most traded currency in the world. UK gilts are held as reserve assets by central banks globally. British financial institutions are counterparties to an enormous share of global derivatives and financial transactions. A genuine sterling crisis in 2025, not a single afternoon like Black Wednesday, but a sustained loss of confidence in UK fiscal credibility, would propagate through global financial markets in ways that 1992 did not. Not because Britain is more important now. Because global financial markets are more interconnected, more leveraged, and more sensitive to confidence shocks than they were 30 years ago. The 1992 crisis was contained to sterling and to a handful of other ERM currencies. The 2025 equivalent would arrive in a market where every major currency and every major bond market is already managing its own version of the same structural pressure. A sterling crisis is not just a British problem. It is the test case for what happens when a major developed economy's fiscal framework is judged inadequate by the bond market. Every other major developed economy is watching the same test run. This channel exists to find the mechanism before the cameras arrive outside the Treasury. Norman Lamont walked outside at 7:30 p.m. to face the cameras because there was nothing left to say inside. The reserves were gone. The rates had failed. The arithmetic had closed. The 2025 mechanism has not closed yet. Britain still has options. The fiscal space is compressed, not eliminated. The gilt market is under pressure, not in crisis. The pound is weak, not in free fall. But the direction of each of those conditions is the same as the direction of the pre-1992 conditions through the summer of that year. Compressed becoming eliminated. Pressure becoming crisis. Weak becoming free fall. If the specific combination of external shock and political miscalculation arrives in the right sequence, Soros made $1 billion because he understood the mechanism earlier than the institutions defending the parity. The mechanism in 2025 is in the published data, in the OBR's fiscal projections, in the gilt yield curve, in the current account deficit that has been running for 20 years. Subscribe if you want to keep watching the arithmetic before the cameras appear. And I want your argument in the comments. In 1992, leaving the ERM was the solution that unlocked Britain's recovery. In 2025, there is no equivalent clean exit. A sustained loss of gilt confidence cannot be resolved by a single policy announcement. Does that mean the 2025 mechanism, when it closes, is more damaging than 1992? Or does the Bank of England's ability to intervene at scale provide a circuit breaker that Lamont never had? Drop your argument below. The clearest one gets pinned.